Blunder was going to the wishing gate to wish for something. He thought that he would like to have a pair of ponies and a little coach like Tom Thumb's. People say that you can have your wish if you once get to that gate, but the thing is to find it. It is not a gate with a sign at the top that simply says Wishing Gate. It is just an old stile in a meadow. There are plenty of old stiles and meadows, and how are you to know which is the right one? Blunder's fairy godmother knew, but then she could not tell him. She could only direct him to follow the road and ask the way of the first owl he met. Over and over again she charged him, for Blunder was a very careless little boy, and seldom found anything. "Be sure you don't miss him. Be sure you don't pass him by." "No, indeed, I won't," said Blunder. So he followed the straight road till he came to a place where it forked, and there he stopped, wondering which way to go. An old brown owl was nodding in a tall oak tree, the first owl Blunder had seen. He was a little afraid to wake him up. The fairy godmother had told him that the owl sat up all night to study frogs. He could think of nothing better to say than, "Good Mr. Owl, will you please show me the way to the wishing gate?" "What's that? Who?" cried the owl, starting out of his nap. "Have you brought me a frog? Who?" "No," said Blunder. "I did not know you wanted one. Can you tell me the way to the wishing gate?" "Wishing gate! Wishing gate! Who?" hooted the owl very angrily. "Winks and naps! How dare you disturb me by asking such a question? Do you take me for a milestone? Who? Follow your nose, my boy. Who? Follow your nose, and you'll get there by and by." But how could Blunder follow his nose? His nose would turn to the right or lead him through the woods, whichever way his legs went. What was the use of asking the owl, he thought, if that was all he could say? A chipmunk came down the path, and seeing Blunder, stopped short with a little squeak. "Eek!" "Good Mrs. Chipmunk," said Blunder, "can you tell me the way to the wishing gate?" "I can't indeed," answered the chipmunk politely, "but if you follow the brook, you will find an old water sprite sitting on a slanting stone. He can tell you." "What is a water sprite?" asked Blunder. "You'll know when you see him," was the reply. Blunder followed the brook, but he saw nothing of the water sprite or of the slanting stone. He was just saying to himself, "I don't know where he is," when he spied a frog sitting on a wet stone. "Mr. Frog," asked Blunder, "can you tell me the way to the wishing gate?"
"I cannot," said the frog, "but in a pine tree over there you will find a crow. He can show you the way, for he is a great traveler. Ribbit."
"I don't know where the pine tree is. I am sure I can never find him," answered Blunder. Still he went on up the brook, till hot and tired and out of patience, he sat down to rest. He looked around him, and right at his elbow he saw a morning glory elf. "Elf, do you know which is the way to the wishing gate?" he asked. "No," said the elf, "I don't know anything about geography, but if you keep on this path, you will meet the Dream Man. He is coming from Fairyland with a bag of dreams on his shoulder. He can tell you about the wishing gate if anybody can." "But how can I find him?" asked Blunder, more and more impatient. "I don't know, I am sure," answered the elf, "unless you look for him." There was no help for it but to go on. Soon Blunder saw the Dream Man asleep under a thorn bush. He had his bags of good and bad dreams beside him, but Blunder had a habit of not using his eyes. At home, when told to find anything, he always said, "I don't know where it is," or "I can't find it." Then his mother or sister went and found it for him. He passed the Dream Man without seeing him. Then he went on until he met a jack-o'-lantern. "Can you show me the way to the wishing gate?" said Blunder. "With pleasure," answered Jack. He caught up his lantern and started off at once, saying, "This way, follow me." Blunder followed close. In watching the lantern, he forgot to look at his feet and fell into a hole filled with black mud. "I say, the wishing gate is not down there," called out Jack, whisking off among the treetops. "I can't come up there," sobbed Blunder. "That is not my fault, then," answered Jack, merrily dancing out of sight. A very angry little boy was Blunder when he climbed out of the hole. "I don't know where it is," he said, crying. I can't find it, and I'll go home." Just then he stepped on an old moss-grown rotten stump. It was a wood goblin's chimney. Blunder fell through, headlong, in among the pots and pans in which the goblin's cook was cooking the goblin's supper. The old goblin was asleep upstairs. He started up in a fright at the clash and clatter. When he found that his house was not tumbling down about his ears, he went stumping down to the kitchen to see what was the matter. The cook heard him and tried to hide Blunder. "Quick!" cried she. "If my master catches you, he will have you in a pie. In the next room you will find a pair of shoes. Jump into them, and they will take you up the chimney." Blunder ran into the room. The shoes were standing there in a corner, but of course he did not see them, for he was not in the habit of using his eyes. "Oh, I can't find them! Oh, I can't find them!" he sobbed, running back to the cook. "Run into the closet," said the cook. Blunder made a dash at the window. "I don't know where it is," he cried. Clump, clump, clump. The goblin was halfway down the stairs. "Jump into the meal chest," cried the cook. I don't see it," squeaked Blunder, rushing toward the fireplace. "Where is it?" Clump, clump, clump. The goblin was at the foot of the stairs. He was coming toward the door of the kitchen. "There is an invisible cloak hanging on that peg," whispered the cook. "Get into that." Blunder could no more see the cloak than he could see the shoes, the closet, and the meal chest. But he caught his foot in it, tumbled down, pulled the cloak over him. There he lay, very still. "What was all that noise about?" asked the goblin, coming into the kitchen. "Only my pans, master," answered the cook. As he could see nothing amiss, the old goblin went grumbling upstairs again. The cook hurried to bring the fairy shoes from the next room, and Blunder, after much ado, managed to get his feet into them. "Now, good-bye," said the cook. "Take care not to blunder into a goblin's house again." The shoes carried Blunder up the chimney and landed him in a meadow, safe enough, but so miserable. He was disappointed. He was hungry. It was dark, and he did not know the way home. Presently he came to an old stile. He climbed up and sat down on top of it. He was too tired to stir. Just then along came the south wind, and as he was going Blunder's way, he took Blunder home. The boy was glad, but he would have liked it better if the wind had not laughed all the way. "What are you laughing at?" he asked. "At two things I saw on my travels," said the wind. "I saw a hen that starved to death while sitting close by a bushel of grain, and I saw a little boy that sat on top of the wishing gate, and then asked me to carry him home because he could not find it." "What? What's that?" cried Blunder. But just then he found himself at home. His fairy godmother was sitting by the fire. She took Blunder's hand in her own and kissed him gently. "What luck! What luck!" cried everybody else. "Where is the wishing gate?" But the fairy godmother said nothing. "I don't know where it is," answered Blunder. "I couldn't find it."